Hey guys, and welcome to the show. Let's talk about roadie sport. So Justin Rohde, former professional shot putter, 2012 Olympian, has his own company right here in Northeast Ohio, and he is doing personal training for throwers as well as making some of the coolest gear around. The shot put glove. Shot put glove is great for you people out there throwing lots of volume or heavy shots or stones. Protects those fingers. If you've been a shot putter or stone putter before, you know what it feels like when those fingers get bent back, and the shot put glove prevents that from happening. It also just prevents wear and tear on the fingers, and that's super important. I mean, you don't want an injury. You want to keep that training going smoothly. Give the shot put glove a try. He also makes closed loop leather lifting straps, which are super badass. I love those. And finally, he's got the Big Throws Clinic, Jolly Big Throws Clinic on December 21st at Youngstown State University. He's going to have some of the best college and professional throwers and throws coaches in the country coming out for that one. It's a meet and greet, and you're also going to get some really high-level throwing training and coaching, and I think they're even having a little competition at the end, so check that out. Give him a shout. Go to Roadie Sports and use the code Savage Sport, all capitals, Savage Sport, for 25% off products and lectures. RODHESPORT.com, roadiesport.com. All right, let's talk about Viking coffee. For those people who are brand new to the show and don't know anything about Viking coffee, Evan Armstrong is brewing up some of the best coffee around. Store-bought coffee is garbage. You want to try out Viking coffee. I love every one of his products, but they also make our Old Man Strength brew. It is fantastic. Very strong, very dark, just like yours truly. VikingCoffeeCo.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout. They also have some really smooth-looking hats and mugs that he just put out, so you want to check those out. I'm going to pick up a hat myself here pretty soon. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout for 10% off. Cerberus. Cerberus is making the best gear in the game for strongman and Highland games and powerlifting. It is super high-level stuff. Very supportive knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, wrist wraps, belts, anything you could want like that. They also do smelling salts. They do those throwing sandbags that I know a lot of you Highland Games guys need, especially in the off season now. You can throw those indoors pretty much anywhere. Smelling salts and chalk and tacky and everything else you could possibly need. Cerberus-strength.us and use the code REFINESAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. Anybody watch ADCCs this weekend? Warrior CBD had athletes all over the place. WarriorCBDofficial.com. They are the best when it comes to CBD oil. They were created by MMA and jiu-jitsu fighters, and you know how beat up and banged up they get. CBD oil is not all the same. So if you're buying CBD oil from a gas station or a grocery store, or even from a company located in a state where cannabis is technically illegal, it is not the same stuff. You want to get something that's really going to work, you want to check out Warrior CBD. WarriorCBDofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout. If you've got a crazy dog, they even have CBD oil for your pets. If you have a dog that freaks out at thunderstorms or fireworks, you can give them this, and it's much better than drugs. Keeps them calm. And for you people who have problems sleeping and have anxiety, Warrior CBD is the way to go. Check them out, guys. Or get a hold of Nancy on Instagram. She will answer all your questions at Warrior CBD Official. SeriousSteel.com would like you to know that they have everything you could possibly need for your home gym, your garage gym, your CrossFit box, whatever you need, Serious Steel has it for you. Check them out. Check their prices out before you go shopping somewhere else. I'm telling you, they are the best deals in town, and their customer service is out of this world. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. SeriousSteel.com. Stay Classy Meats. I am 110%, I hate that. I'm just 100% fueled by Stay Classy Meats. I've been using their products since June when they sent me their first box, and they've sent me 2 other boxes since, and I've just been living off Stay Classy meats. No vegetables will pass these lips. I am 100% carnivore nowadays, and Stay Classy Meats is fueling that. Bozeman, Montana. These are small batch farms raising these animals. They are living off nice, fresh, beautiful Montana grass, and drinking out of Montana streams makes a huge difference in the way these animals live, and it makes a huge difference in the way they taste once you chop them up and put them on your plate. Go over to StayClassyMeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. I promise you will not be disappointed. Iron and Stone Strength. Iron and Stone. I just bought a t-shirt from Iron and Stone. I love it. It's super soft. I'm a t-shirt snob. So if a t-shirt is ganky and I can't get it to fit right, I will not wear it. My shirt came the other day. I love it. Iron and Stone Strength shirts are sharp and comfortable, the 2 things I love most. So go over there and check out their hats and sweatshirts as well. They're also having a competition in December called Feats of Strength. You want to check that out. They run a fantastic show up there in Buffalo, New York area. Use the code REFINESAVAGE, all caps, at checkout for 20% off. Today on the show, we have David Sloan. David is the creator of Key West Ghost Tours, and he runs a fantastic tour down in Key West, Florida. He's also read several books like Roosters Are Assholes and Iguanas Are Assholes and the Key West Bucket List, as well as Haunted Key West. Fantastic writer, fantastic human. This is the last interview of my interviews that I did on my pilgrimage to Key West this summer, and it was a doozy. Great conversation with a great human being. I know you're going to love it. Check it out, guys, and we'll see you at the end. All right, we are at the Cuban Coffee Queen. Cuban Coffee Queen, is that where we're at?
Yeah.
With David Sloan, author and ghost hunter and ambassador for the Conch Republic, let's say, down here in Key West, Florida. The
minister of debauchery for the Conch Republic.
I like that. We were just talking about this Cow Key Bridge run.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, because that was pretty funny.
Well, everybody knows the 7 Mile Bridge Run, which is, I mean, it's world famous. It's a 7 mile bridge that people run across, and it sells out in minutes.
Yeah.
Because they can only handle, I think 1,500 people. I had a friend who I was out drinking with one night, and the next morning it was the Hemingway 5K. Now, I haven't run since junior high.
Yeah.
And he says, do you want to do this? And when you're just a little hungover and you're still a little giddy, and a 5K seemed like a great idea. I said, yeah, great, let's go do it. And so we went, and I started running, and I tell you, I thought I was going to die. I finished, but I mean, I was really hurting. I came in last in my age group. I think if anybody came in behind me, it was because they dropped out. There might have been a kid who broke his leg and couldn't finish. But I did finish, and afterwards, they finished at the Hemingway house, and everybody got a beer, and so I'm drinking the beer with him, and he says, good job. You want to do the 7 Mile Bridge Run next? And I said, the only bridge I'm running across is the Cow Key Bridge.
Yeah.
And the Cow Key Bridge is one of the shortest bridges in the Florida Keys. It's, I think it's 400 feet, something like that. And so that kind of sparked the idea, and on Facebook we put it up as a joke. I put, hey, Cow Key Bridge Run, and about an hour later we had 150 or 200 people sign up. And so this first year, I said, I guess we better do this, and teamed up with some of my friends, and we pulled off the first Cow Key Bridge Run. I think we had 1,500 people show up.
Wow. And
it became this really cool thing, because it was meant to, it's like, hey, if you don't want to break a sweat, don't want to wake up before noon and still want to get the t-shirt, then go ahead and do this. But it became this really cool thing where we had some people with disabilities who came to cross it, and they said, this is the first time I got to do something with my granddaughter, and then you had people who just can't run that, but they do want to get up, and people dress in costumes. We do a different theme each year. We've done a rock and roll theme. We do a space theme, but people dress up like cows, and it's a lot of fun. And we raise money for the Monroe County Sheriff's Animal Farm. We have a petting zoo at the jail here.
They have an animal farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we give a portion of our proceeds to the sheriff's animal farm, so it helps the animals. One year it helped put a corral around the area. Sometimes it buys them food or fans and things like that.
That's great.
But it's become this really cool event that rivals the 7 Mile Bridge Run. So it's pretty cool. It's a
Well, if I don't get into the 7 Mile Bridge Run, I'm hoping to run that this year. But if I don't make the cut, I'll definitely have to come down for that one.
We'll save a space for you.
Yeah, why not? I read Haunted Key West.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic, and I didn't realize there were so many stories down there. And I'm guessing that's just scratching the surface of the ghost tales down here.
Yeah, I think there's 13 ghost stories in there. I know of at least 100 haunted houses in town.
Right.
And what I found is really cool.
So you run the Key West ghost tours, right?
Yeah, well, there's several tours down here.
Okay.
And I used to manage cruise ships.
Really?
And I quit my corporate job running the ship because I'd seen a ghost tour in Scotland. And I've always been into the ghosts, and I saw that people were making money telling ghost stories.
Right.
There weren't really any ghost tours in the United States at the time, at least none that I knew of, and this is back before the internet. So I quit my job, moved to Charleston to start a ghost tour, and they already had a ghost tour. I was one of the first 5 in the United States.
Right.
I went back to my parents' house in Fort Lauderdale, and my friend managed the Pier House Hotel here in Key West.
Spent all weekend in there at the chart room.
He called my parents' house looking to speak with me, and trying to find me on the ship. And my parents said, he's right here. So I talked to him, told him my idea, and he said, Key West is the second oldest city in Florida. Why don't you come down here? So I came down, I slept on his kitchen floor and started researching the ghosts. I didn't find anything. After 10 days, I was about to head out, and somebody appeared next to me in my car, and it was weird. It wasn't like a scary ghost thing.
Right.
It was like some guy, and I was lost getting off the island, and this guy says, go back to the library. And I kind of got short with him, and I said, I don't know where the library is. And I look up, and there's a sign that says library parking only. And I parked, and I went back, and I had been to the library 3 times and found nothing. This time I go to the Florida history section, and Tom Hambright, who is our historian, he was in there, and he says, can I help you with something? I said, I'm looking for a book on ghosts. And he said, oh, there are none. And I said, no book or no ghosts? And he said, no books. And I said, okay. And I started to leave, and he said, hang on a second. And he goes into this walk-in vault, and he comes out with a file about an inch thick, full of newspaper clippings from the last 30 years, all about the haunted history. And I started putting them on a map, and I went knocking on doors. And a lot of these people had been here for a long time, so I captured generations of stories.
Yeah.
And I started the first ghost tour here. And it's kind of fascinating because you look at the towns like the big port towns, New Orleans, Key West, Havana, Charleston, St. Augustine, some of the most haunted towns in the country. And I think it has something to do with the seafarers coming through here. They've got these characters to them that nobody else can duplicate, and they've got this energy. And Key West, before we had the bridge or the trains, we were an island, biggest city in Florida. So it's really been a special city, and researching the ghosts really got me into the history. And so it's become this vehicle to share these amazing stories and these crazy things that happen, but also to kind of honor the lives of these people who helped build the town and make it what it was. And preserve stories that might otherwise just be lost to time.
Yeah, I had been on one ghost tour before, and it was in New Orleans, and it was really good because New Orleans, like you said, is one of those towns that, and there's certain towns that I love, Key West and New Orleans and Austin and these kind of weird towns, in the middle of these redneck heaven places that end up being really cool little cities. But it's so fascinating, and some people will always believe and some people won't. And I lived in a house. I lived in a 107-year-old farmhouse before we moved into the house we're in now.
And we had so many experiences and so many weird things happen to us while we were in that house. And I mean, people know me. I'm not a woo-woo guy, but I'm also not the guy who says, you're full of shit, you know. So we lived in this house. I continuously saw a cat that we didn't have, just at odd hours of the night. My son, who at the time was maybe 2 or 3, we would catch him waving at people who weren't there. We had, when we moved in, there was this set of curtains that were hanging, and they were horrible. And like, I don't know how many years old these curtains were. And my wife at the time had taken the curtains down and threw them in a box in the basement, and our cattle dog went down there and would bark at these curtains for no reason, just viciously bark at these curtains. So we ended up getting rid of those, and the creepiest thing was we had one bedroom with a balcony, and my mother-in-law had woke up in the middle of the night and saw a little boy dressed in kind of like a old school kid's uniform from some kind of prep school thing. And my mother came in, and we were off doing something. She decided as a nice thing she was going to paint this room for us. So she goes in and she paints the room and goes back downstairs, comes up and puts another coat on, and goes back downstairs and waits for it to dry, and she's going to go see what it looks like. You know, a few hours later, she goes back up, and scrolled across the wall is, and I don't remember the kid's name or what name it was, but there was someone's name scrawled across the wall. It was the creepiest thing that ever happened. And you know, we would have a Halloween party every year, and I would take people around the house and say, "Oh, this has happened in this room," and my friend so and so saw this person in this room, and so it was always a fun thing at Halloween for people to come and check out. So I've told my wife that when I hit retirement age, I want to come down here and get a job with you, just taking people around on ghost.
You're hired.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. You were talking about how some people believe and some people don't believe. And I've always figured, hey, if someone hasn't had an experience, I don't blame them if they don't believe.
Sure.
But something kind of cool happened. We used to go to this old theater, and before that it was a church, and it was closed up. It had been locked up and abandoned for maybe 7 or 8 years, so you knew nobody was in there.
Yeah.
And it was still set up like it had been when it was a church. Harry Truman used to attend services and sit in the back row. So we gather around, we're telling the story about the children who died in a fire there that haunt this place. And somebody says, "Oh, what's that?" And you look up this dark aisle up towards where the altar would be, and there was this mist forming, and more than a mist, it almost looked like a ball of cotton. And it started rolling towards us, and it started getting bigger and bigger as it rolled towards us. So about half of the group is saying, "Whoa, what the hell is that?" And then you had half the group who wasn't seeing anything, and they started poking the people. They're like, what do you see? What do you see? And the people who are watching it are like, "Stop messing with my experience. Shut up, shut up, shut up." And so these other people were getting frustrated. And then the ball of cotton took on the image of a little girl, and she was maybe 3 or 4 feet tall, and she was transparent. She was wearing a dress. She was very crystal clear with you could see the dress, you could make out her little shoes, you could see all of her features. And she came up, and I'm right by the glass, so she ended up about 8 inches from me.
Yeah.
But she could not see us. She looked right through everybody in the group, looked back and forth as if she was just going to see what was happening outside, and then she turned around, walked back, turned back into that mist, and rolled away back into nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, why do half the people see this and why do the other half not? And I took them aside and I said, "Can you describe what you saw?" You know, I split them into 2 groups, who saw, who didn't. And it was pretty evenly split, and they all described the same things for those who did see it. So I started thinking, it's something with the way that we're tuned into things, something about the frequency. And I don't know all the science behind it, but I believe that humans vibrate on different frequencies, and we can change our frequency maybe through yoga or meditation,
Sure, yeah.
through alcohol or through drugs, through brain injuries, different things. It's kind of like if you and I shared the same car, and I love heavy metal, and you love country music. So I get in the car, and I set it to heavy metal. that's all I hear through the car. But those country music vibes are still coming through. I'm just not tuned into them.
Right.
Same thing, you get in the car, you hit country music.
Yeah.
Heavy metal's coming through, but you don't hear it. And if I told you there's heavy metal in the car, you'd be like, nah, there's no such thing as heavy metal. I kind of think that's the way it works with Ghosts. I mean, that's the only way that I can explain how half a group saw something and half did not.
I think a lot of it has to do with shutting that part of your brain down, too. I think people just, they feel silly, they feel, oh, wow, and they shut that off, and you're not open to that, I remember, I was telling you, I worked in a correctional facility for years, and would see things all the time, basketballs rolling across the floor that when no one was there, or shadows where you could see it out of the corner of your eye and you knew no one was supposed to be there, but it was just, I remember walking into a church one time and seeing what I thought was a little woman out the side of my eyes sitting in this place where they had meetings. So I mean, I've always had that something where I pick stuff up.
What were most of the deaths at the correctional facilities? I mean, were they suicides and murders?
Yeah, one kid was a hanging.
Okay.
And that's the only one I know of there. But I knew the cell. Always freaked me out walking by the cell because I worked night shift. So it always kind of freaked me out walking by that cell every night. And kids would have experiences in there, and we weren't allowed to tell them, because then you'd have no kid who'd want to sleep in that cell, but yeah, I mean, I've always had, and my wife is very into that stuff. Way more than anyone I've ever met. She has dreams and experiences, and she's really tuned into something.
Well, it's interesting thinking about a ghost being in jail, because a lot of times they want to go back somewhere that they liked. A lot of ghosts, like in Key West, it's like, hey, we think they don't want to leave.
Right. Same reason I don't want to leave.
I mean, it takes work to live here, but I think people work so hard for it. They have that attachment. They don't want to let go.
Yeah.
But you think about a prison, and it's the last place anybody would want to be. And then a lot of times if people die suddenly, they don't quite understand what's happened, or they can't be trapped to that area. But to think how horrible it would be to want to get out and then to have your spirit remain. Yeah. I mean, it's like a double sentence. It's kind of mind blowing to think about that.
Yeah, it's just like religion for me. I get as irritated with atheists as I do with true believers. Because you don't know what's out there. We're humans walking around on this globe, and we have no idea. And to come to me and tell me that you have 100% certainty that there's a God, or come to me and tell me the otherwise, or as far as ghosts or spirits or aliens or anything, you just don't know. So
somehow I've been able to hit a point where I can have two opposing thoughts at the same time and believe them both to be true. There are times when I don't believe in ghosts, and I think, oh, nonsense.
I think that's called maturity.
Right. Yeah, I think it is, being able to see things like that. When I say, I don't believe in ghosts, I can turn around, I can say, okay, I've had hundreds of experiences that I can't attribute to anything but the paranormal, and yes, I completely believe in them. And to have those thoughts at the same time, it's like Schrodinger's cat,
right.
Where it's alive and dead at the same time.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and like I said, I've always told my wife that that's what I want to do when I retire. It's just because I mean, I haven't taken the one down here yet, but the ability just to take people around and teach them a little history and show them that Key West is more than just bars and shitty T-shirt shops.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a weird. I was talking to Quincy Perkins last night, by the way. Great job on that call, because that guy
he's fascinating.
He is fascinating. Mm-hmm. I just ordered his father's book on Amazon.
His father Reeve has. Oh boy,
how?
Yeah, they're an amazing family.
Yeah, and he just kept telling me more and more things, going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. But anyhow, we were talking last night about Key West and how people see it. So when I first came to Key West, it was exciting for me because, I was a Jimmy Buffett fan, and he had put all these words into my vocabulary that I had never heard before, and places like Captain Tony's and Duval Street in general, the Snake Pit Lounge and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So
Do you know where the Snake Pit is?
I don't know where it's gone, right?
Well, the building's still there. It was the old Anchor Inn. It's the Red Garter Saloon now. It's a strip club. So right next to Rick's.
Right.
That's what they nicknamed it, the Snake Pit. But it was the old Anchor Inn.
Anchor Inn.
Yeah.
But that's why I was excited to come down here at first. But once you come down and you start talking to people down here, and you go to the chart room, and I'm like, why is there a plaque that says Mel on the bar? Who's this Mel guy? And now I'm down the Mel Fisher rabbit hole, and this week while we were down here, I got to do a podcast and have a few drinks with his grandson. And I mean, there's so much history and so much character to this island that it's so far past the party, and I don't think people realize it.
Yeah, it goes way beyond the party, and the party's always been part of it. If you look at us, we've always been an island of pirates. I mean, there were pirates, and then you had the wreckers, and then you had the drug smugglers, and I mean, it's always been a very fascinating town. And I think one of the cool things is we have the real history, but the oral tradition in this town has made it very special.
Yeah.
Because you do have people who are fishermen and who are drinkers, and they share their stories. But I think that reflects on a culture so strongly, and the fact that we have all this incredible material, and that you have to dig with a lot to find out where that true point is. And by the time you do that, you're in. And yeah, beyond the drinking, we have an incredible food scene here. We have an incredible music scene. It's always the temperature and the people, the weather and the people that make people want to come here. But it's amazing.
I interviewed John Holster, and you were instrumental in getting me in touch with him, because all I knew him was John the bartender from the chart room. And the reason why his job is so important, because if you don't have someone who knows the history of Key West at the chart room, the bar is 12 stools and a couple tables, and there's not much to it. But if you have someone who's holding court behind the bar, who can tell you the history of the people who walked in, or who everyone in those pictures are on the wall, and knows about ship's captain, crew, and just knows all the other histories of all the other bartenders that were in there, and who was Phil Clark and who was Tom Cochran.
He didn't talk about me being naked in the peanut barrel?
He didn't.
All right,
Are you going to talk about this? We might need to hear this story.
Well, I don't remember all of it, but it was a friend's birthday, and our dear friend Jean Thornton was there, and she's with the Mel Fisher crew as well. They call her the Golden Girl, but she found this huge emerald out there.
Oh, that's one of my favorite. Is it she the one with in her mouth that she took the picture?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite all-time pictures of from Mel Fisher. Just this woman, beautiful smile, just found this. It looked like the size of a grape, just pinched in her teeth that she'd come up with from the bottom of the ocean.
And she is amazing, and the emerald has so much energy to it.
Yeah. Does she still live down here?
Yeah, she spends part of her time here and part of her time up in Birmingham.
Okay.
So she comes here as much as she can.
Yeah.
So she, somebody turned to her when the party was getting a little crazy, and they said, "Gene, it's time for you to go home."
Yeah.
And apparently I ended up naked in the famous peanut barrel. That everybody knows the charm for the peanuts all over the floor.
Right, yeah.
Somebody tried to tell me the next day. I'm like, nah, it didn't happen, no way. But if you go into the chart room and look up on the wall, there's a photograph of me.
I wish I would have seen that earlier. I would have checked that out. That could have been like the showrunner for the picture for the show.
Right. Yes, it's a great bar, but stay away from the peanuts.
Yeah. You don't want to be. You want to leave those out for at least a while.
Yeah, they say they sanitized the barrel after that, threw away the batch of peanuts.
I think it's the same batch of peanuts that are in there since I've been coming in
right?
2008. Tell us a little bit about your books. You've written like a million of them.
Yeah, I've done 20 some. I mean, there's really 10 or 12 core books that do well, that everybody loves, that kind of define Key West. And I started with I never considered myself an author or anything like that, but people who came on the ghost tour asked if there were any books about the ghosts, and I said, well, no. And I figured, well, I know the stories better than anybody else. Let me try writing one. And so I wrote Ghosts of Key West, and it did really well. Nobody wanted to publish it. I approached publishers, and they're like, they had no interest. So I said, I'll learn how to do that myself.
Yeah.
And this is before self-publishing was easy. You had to kind of navigate it. And so I found a printer. I found how to do everything myself. And I did really well. So after that, I hooked up with my friend Chris Schultz, and we did Quit Your Job and Move to Key West. Yep. And that blew things away. Yeah. That still sells really well. And then we did Key West 101, which has kind of faded away. We don't publish that anymore, but it was a great book at the time. We did the Key West Hangover Survival Guide. Learned that people who are hungover don't want to buy a book and read.
That's funny.
Great book, but that never had any traction. Haunted Key West. It's a huge book now. And then I researched Robert the Doll. When I came to Key West, there were 3 mysteries. The 3 biggest mysteries were, where is Robert the Doll from? Who invented key lime pie? Who is this Aunt Sally they say invented it? And where's Bumpardo?
Bumpardo, right.
I've been a part of solving all 3 of those mysteries.
Yeah.
So with Robert the Doll, I wrote the book about it, and it tells the truth. There's a lot of rumors out there. People say, oh, he inspired the Chucky movies, Child's Play. They say he was built by an angry servant. I reverse engineered all these legends and got to the truth. Which is all. It's another
That's
fascinating
one of the creepiest stories ever.
Oh, it's insane. I had some horrible things happen with Robert the Doll.
Yeah.
Where we ended up having a Santeria priest come in and do a ceremony to get rid of these spirits that had attached to me through my research of him for the book.
There's so many people who had experiences with that damn thing.
Yeah, he gets like 2 or 3 letters a day.
Yeah.
So you think about that. He gets several hundred letters a year.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So then with the books, like the other main ones, I do bucket lists. So I've got the Key West bucket list, the Florida Keys bucket list, and those are 100 offbeat adventures. Yeah. In Key West or the Florida Keys. So it kind of gives people. It's a different kind of guidebook, and I find people don't want to read a bunch and be told exactly what to do.
Right.
They want to kind of primer and say, hey, point me in this direction. Is that something I like? And then boom, let them go off and experience it.
Yeah, and I read it, like I just said, I've come down here a million times, but I read the bucket list, matter of fact, just a couple weeks ago I read that, and there was a lot of things on there that I'd done before, and a few things that I hadn't, and a few things I hadn't seen.
Did you do the new Key West bucket list?
One.
Great.
Yeah, I got that one, and Haunted Key West off Amazon, and read them both, and knew I was coming down here, so they're you are like the Key West author in a place that's known for authors.
Yeah, it's it's really cool because there's not a lot of money in books. Anybody who writes one will tell you, and people hear about Stephen King, or they hear about a big author who they make millions of dollars, but then people will see a book like mine and they say, okay, $16.95. Wow, he's making $20 a book.
Yeah, right.
But retailers always have a 50% markup, and then the publishing price. And when you narrow it down, you have to sell a lot of books to make a living. And I'm pretty proud that I've been able to make a living, and I live in Key West writing books.
Yeah, it's not exactly a cheap place to live.
Yeah, and I like it. And I never considered myself an author, but I do believe that if you were to put one of my books next to a Hemingway book today and have your average visitor take a look and read both, I think most of them would say they prefer mine. Now, I'm not saying I'm a better writer than Hemingway, because I'm not at all. He changed the literary scene. He was larger than life.
Yeah.
These amazing things that he did. But I am proud that I write books and that they sell and that they make people happy.
And there's so many people who aren't going to sit down with to have or have not. And whereas they'll grab the Key West bucket list and go through it.
Or they'll grab roosters or hassles or iguanas or hassles, which are ridiculous books that I wrote over the course of a weekend, just because I thought, hey, let's do this.
I'll have to pick your brain. One of the things I was supposed to do when I was down here, I've been trying to write a book for a year, and the problem is I have a million stories, and right now what I have is, instead of chapters, I have a million unconnected blogs, for lack of a better term. So I'll have to pick your brain after this. It won't be interesting for listeners, but what I did find down here, and when I thought about it a while, is what I need is guidebook. I need to put something on my screen that's going to give me the sense of the whole book, and anything that doesn't go with that word, I need to get rid of.
Yeah, do an outline, or in some circles they call it like a red thread. So in a movie they'll have a red thread, and it's the thing that weaves through the entire movie and ties it all together. Like in Superbad, they had the cops who kept making their scene, and those were the red thread that tied this story together. And if you removed all the scenes with the cops, it wouldn't have been a great movie.
Right.
So you find a red thread, and you can make that anything. So you have all your stories, and say they go all over the place. They can go from your family life to the ghost stuff to the correctional facility, and they can go all over. Maybe you have one story that started your trajectory in life, and like you said, maybe it had to do with a lizard. And this lizard taught you this early impact. Your first memory was a lizard, and then just call the book Lizard Shit and tie everything to that lizard,
right?
And how and how everything you do can relate to this lizard. And you can say, the lizard got trapped in the sink and he felt like he was in jail, and then go into your jail stories.
Right.
So you can come up with things like that. I think one of your big advantages, most people who want to write a book about their own stories, everybody thinks their stories are fascinating. Most people don't want to buy them, and they end up ordering 1,000 copies through a vanity publisher who takes too much money from them and just publishes through Amazon KDP, which anybody can do. So nobody should ever go through a publisher, because if the publishers want you, you're already at this level of success.
Sure.
And so they're just going to take your money, and there's hardly any there anyway.
Yeah.
I've got friends who want to be with a real publisher, and they think they're going to get a couple $1,000s at the end of the year, and they get a check for $42 because they do returns. But you've got this great advantage because people already like you. You've got this great podcast. You've got people who know that you're genuine and they want to hear more from you. So you've got a built-in audience where you can put your stuff together. The hardest part of any book is sitting down and writing it.
Yeah.
So start with the outline, and then every day just fill in. Say you're going to do one page, and at the end of the year you're going to have a book.
That's what I need to do, and that's. I looked at it as a kind of a win and a kind of a loss down here, because I didn't expect to be able to put all these ramblings together into a book while I was down here, but at least it gave me some focus, and I realized what I have to do with it and where it needs to go. And like you said, I just need to find a way to weave that red thread through it all.
Yeah, and I've talked with thousands of people who have a book idea and who want to do a book, and maybe 3 or 4 of them have actually done it.
Yeah.
So the hardest part is writing, and I think with a lot of people, a book is very personal, and they have a fear of failure. And what happens if the book comes out and nobody buys it? Or what if they don't think it's good? What if they judge me on this or that? And I think the important thing for anybody is to get the first book out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's garbage, because right now, people believe it costs money to publish a book. It does not. You can go to Amazon KDP and they have templates. They have ways to set it up. You can go on a site like Fiverr.com and you can have somebody design a cover for about $50. You can have somebody edit the inside. There's all these things you can do for almost next to nothing. And anybody who has some computer skills can do it all themselves, or for $300 or $400 have it all done and submit it to Amazon. And in 2 weeks you will have a book. And then it might be like most books and sit on Amazon where nobody buys it. Or people might say, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But going through the process once makes it so less daunting. So even if your first book is total garbage, go back through some of your favorite bands and look at the first album they put out, and you think it's garbage, and then you listen to stuff they do now. It's because they got started.
Or podcasts.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to, Joe Rogan is arguably the biggest podcast in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to listen to his earlier episodes, they were almost unlistenable.
Mm-hmm.
They were so bad, and that's my goal now is to get this thing done by the holidays, because I have all the stories. I just need to weave them together and put it together, and I'll make sure I send you the first copy.
Good. I want the first copy.
The problem is, and I'm guessing this is all writers, and I'm an avid reader, so when I write something, I'm expecting it to sound like Hemingway. I want the language to be beautiful, and I don't speak that way.
Yeah, so. well, think about this. What if you and I were sitting here talking, and I started talking like Hemingway and just using very short sentences, and then or if I started using flowery language and I wasn't myself, it would come across as insincere. And people can sense insincerity. Most of the time they don't say that. But you talk to anyone and you'll kind of tune them out when they're not sincere, if it's not interesting. So people know this intuitively. So all you have to do is write like you talk.
I
write like you talk, and then hire an editor to remove the glaring errors. It's funny because people expect that if you're a writer that people use big words around me, and sometimes I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And then
you're not a thesaurus.
And then on social media, if I have a typo or a misspelling, people love to point it out, saying, "Oh, just helping out an author." And I think, screw you. That's why I have an editor. I have the thoughts, and I have the stories, and I have the entertainment, and I'm going to deliver that. But somebody's going to clean it up and make it digestible for the general public. Hemingway had a great editor. All of his stuff went through a process. So I think being an author and being this literary genius, they're two separate things. If you have a story to tell and you can tell it sincerely, then that's great. Doesn't mean you're going to sell books. I still think a lot of people, the average person out there, if they write a book about their life story, nobody wants it. I found with Key West, I don't write my story, I write what I'm passionate about.
That's exactly what my thoughts are.
And people love ghosts, so ghost books sell. People want to quit their job and move to Key West. Yeah. I did a key lime pie cookbook because people love key lime pie. Roosters are assholes because roosters are a big thing in Key West. So everything I've done is not about getting my story out. It's about selling to these niche markets of what people will want.
Right.
And I think that's important because people have to ask themselves, why do I want to write a book? A lot of people want to preserve their legacy. They want their grandkids to be able to read a book and say, hey, look, this is what your great-grandfather did. Here's his stories. And that alone can be, boom, worth more than selling 1 million books.
Sure, yeah.
But if people want to make money with books, I say don't do it.
Yeah.
Of course, some people will. And now you really have nothing to lose. You can print 10 books at a time. You can print 10 books at a time, or you can print 100 books at a time.
Yeah, my whole thing is believe it or not, because I'm a capitalist. I get it. I am such a fan of books. And a fan of reading actual books where your hands are on the book itself. I have these stories, and I want to put them out there, and I have passion for what I'm talking about, and I just want to get it out there. And I've got followers on Instagram who get a hold of me all the time with questions, and they need motivation to do certain things, and that's what I'm passionate about. Get after it, whether it's working out or getting off your ass and finding a different job. For instance, I've got this kid who worked at the same place I did for 19 years, and every week I see him, and I'm like, "Are you getting after it? Have you quit that job yet? Because you're too smart to work there. You need to go find something." So I'm just trying to motivate these people to not be sedentary, whether it's physically or mentally. And I just want to get moving, get living, do something, and that's what I want to talk about. That's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and it sounds like with something like that, before Christmas you could get something out. If you chose your 10 top stories, get a book out. You want the book to be about 120 pages.
That's what I was thinking. Yep.
Because I know people listening can't see this, but the Roosters Are Assholes is just over. It's about 110. It's a little thin, but and the Robert's a little more than that. But you have to have this weight where people feel like they're getting their value.
Yeah.
And right about 120 pages is where you want to be, and that can include photos, and it can include. You want to have you don't need to jam it all with words. But I bet you could do 10 stories, and if you brought them to 120 pages, do your top 10 stories, and then come up with the right title where it's intriguing and lets people know what it is. You can get out there and boom.
See, I'm inspired now. So like I said, you'll get the first copy when it comes out,
and the great thing with Amazon too. So you get your books up on there. Once you have your book in a PDF file and you can upload it and set up your account, you can set your prices. They'll show you the split, and you don't have to print a single copy. You can just talk about it, and people can go on Amazon and buy it,
right.
and it'll get shipped to them with Prime, and you'll just make money doing with nothing. I call it mailbox money because once it's up there, they just send you a check.
Yeah.
But then, with me, I print books because I distribute them in Key West as well. So I've got sales on Amazon, and it's funny because like the Robert the Doll book, I might sell 5 a month, but then locally here, I can sell 300, 400 copies in a month.
People come down and they want to read something while they're down here about that.
Yeah, but then you look at like the Key West bucket list, and then locally I'll sell 100 copies a month, but online I'm selling a lot.
Yeah.
So it can be different with different books, and if you're to print them, since you have a fan base all over the world. The great thing about Amazon is no matter where they are, they'll print and they'll ship.
Yeah.
So you don't need, you can print, 50 copies to start with, for your friends and family and the people who you have personal contact with, and to give to people when you do a podcast with them.
Yes, right.
But, and it's so easy. I think if anybody listening wants to write a book, just do it. Do the first one. Go to Amazon KDP. It walks you through the process. There's forums on there that answer any questions you have.
Isn't it amazing nowadays where, 20 years ago, you wanted to have a television show. Well, you better be somebody famous or a famous comedian and have somebody discover you and go to ABC, and now you just upload your stuff to YouTube and you can have your own TV show today.
Yep.
If you want to be an author, you can just go through Amazon. You could be an author today.
And the cream rises to the top.
Yep. Same thing with podcasts. I haven't listened to terrestrial radio. I don't know how long. It's been years. I get in, my phone loads up the Bluetooth, and I get whatever podcast I'm listening to. It goes right to the speakers, and I don't have to deal with commercials, and I don't have to deal with, radio disc jockeys or Rush Limbaugh or any of these weird people. I can just listen to the people I want to listen to talking about the things I want to hear about. It's an amazing world we live in right now.
Yeah, I pretty much listen to Slipknot all the time.
You're just driving.
I just have Slipknot on my phone and I just play them everywhere.
Driving around Key West listening to Slipknot at top volume. You're one of those guys.
It's funny because my brain really does well with heavy metal.
Yeah.
Something about it, my best thoughts come to me when metal's playing. It's kind of like a massage for my brain, and I don't know if it distracts my monkey brain and allows me to get these other thoughts through, but it's almost meditative to me
we had a girl. So in my gym, I have an 80 foot long by 20 foot high wall, and not 20 feet, it's probably 14 feet. And this girl came in, and I commissioned her to do a mural on the wall. And I'm a big Frank Frazetta fan. Are you familiar with Frank Frazetta's painting? It's kind of my whole leg's a Frank Frazetta painting. It's I call it van art. Like Conan, and the way we see Conan is because of Frank Frazetta. So I commissioned her to do this wall. So I gave her Conan and Red Sonja and all these pictures for her. And she would come in there at 9 o'clock at night after the gym closed. And one time I walked in on her, I had to drop something off, so it was like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. She had Slipknot playing at full volume in that gym, louder than it's ever been for people working out. And she's just in there with this little teeny paintbrush just painting Conan, and had no idea it was even in the room, but she was just in the zone on this. And she would do that every night for 9 weeks until that wall was done.
Yeah, I can totally relate.
And she was just jamming from 9 at night till 3 in the morning painting. It was crazy. It's how some people work, like yourself. I'm more of a Jimmy Buffett.
I love Jimmy Buffett
Jennings
too.
Kind of guy.
I can get into everything, but if I was to be trapped in a gym with only one choice of music to listen to and had to paint a wall, it would be Slipknot.
Yeah. Well, how old are you?
I'm 49.
Okay, I'm 45. I grew up in the 80s with hair metal and stuff like that. So people at my gym. It's funny because the coaches all have their own music choices they put on, and mine's always like 80s metal.
Well, I'll listen to the metal, but then I love Burt Bacharach too.
Yeah, there you go.
And with the Amazon Echo, it's nice just being able to spout out a name and then have something play.
Of course, the government's listening to you too. So.
Well, of course, I like the meme that's out there where it says wiretaps in the 1970s, and it's like, be careful what you say, Sonia. The government might be listening. And then it says in 2020, it's like, hey, wiretap, give me a recipe for pancakes.
Yeah, everyone is apparently listening. But yeah, my brother-in-law has one of those. And I'm so old school. I have a hard time. I'm thinking about changing my Facebook name on Facebook to take my last name out of it, just because I don't want people to know where I am and you know what I'm doing.
Right.
But yeah. So what else do you do down here? I mean, like, what does a day in Key West look like for you?
It's interesting because I wake up early, usually 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I like to do the first little part of the day for myself. I like to do yoga. I just discovered yoga about a year ago,
right?
And it's the most amazing thing.
Yes.
People told me for 20 years to try yoga, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. You know, I don't want to be around people. I can't stretch. I made up all these excuses.
Sure.
And I'm just so grateful I found it when I did, because it's been great for my body. I naturally want to eat healthier when doing it, but what it does for my mind, and I do 15 or 20 minutes, and I do it at home.
Right.
A friend gave me this thing, or told me about yoga with Adrienne, and she's out of Texas. She's got like 5 million followers, and it's all free yoga.
She's super hot.
She is, but you know, what's so funny? Like, that kind of lures you in, but then you have so much respect for her as a teacher, that you don't even look at her that way. You look at her as this person who's helping you. And I did a 30-day challenge, and she calls it Find What Feels Good Yoga, where you know, if you can't get into the position, if it's not right for you, she's like, it's okay, don't worry about it, just show up and do it. And for me, it became this meditation. I was never able to meditate before. And just in those 15 or 20 minutes each morning, it sets me up where I was to a point where by noon, without yoga, I'd be flustered. I feel like I wouldn't get the day done. I'd be short with people. I wasn't fun to be around. And I started doing this 15 or 20 minutes, and I make it until 5 o'clock, and then I just might notice a little something, and so then I'll just take a few minutes and just do a couple of stretches. And I'm fine for the entire day. My life has improved by like 90%, and I'm blown away. And I also realize it's one of those things where you can't just tell people and then they do it. The window has to be open. It has to be the right time for someone. But I'm just so grateful that I found it when I did.
And that's the thing is, this is my argument for everyone. I think you need to do something. I do yoga at night before I go to bed. And I lift giant Atlas stones and deadlift and run and climb and do pull-ups, you know, during the day. So I hit both sides of that, but you should do something for yourself physically, take care of your body, and it makes everything else so much better. You know, and people don't understand it, and I don't care what you do. If you want to do yoga, or if you want to do a spin class, or what is it, Zumba, or what, just do something, move, you know.
And, you know, for me, I think I'd become so much a part of the Key West lifestyle of, hey, carefree, whatever. And it got to a point where I didn't have any discipline in my life. And my girlfriend's a teacher, so she'd have this whole teacher thing, and I'd go out whenever, I'd do whatever. I didn't have a weekend. Every day was the weekend. And I decided to get on teacher schedule with her and go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time to improve the relationship and make sure that it, you know, that I didn't lose it. But through the course of it, I started making a daily checklist for myself, and this checklist, it can sound silly, but I mean, I put wake up, and I'd have a little column where I put what time I woke up, I'd weigh myself, put my weight, and then I'd say, cuddle girl and dog. So I'd start my day by giving each of them a hug, and then I had to put, you know, shower, brush your teeth, floss, you know, do curls, do yoga, and then, you know, don't eat garbage. Read Ram Dass. I'd have different things that I read, and I modify this list all the time, and some things have become habit now, where I can remove them from it. But I started off saying, what's everything I have to do in the day? And that way I can refer to my list several times, and at the end of the day I evaluate myself, and I don't criticize myself if I miss something. At the end of the week I say, what do I need to work on more? And this list is just, I mean, all of it's really helped me, because you don't realize how far you fall.
It's one of the most important things that I stress to people all the time. You know, a place where I sit in my house, where I wake up every morning. I wake up at 4:30. I have to be at the gym at 6, but I get up at 4:30 and I read for an hour or so before I go to the gym. And but I have this little list where I sit, and every day there's a checklist of everything I need to get done on that day. And there's some things on it that are like that. You know, flirt with wife, or you know, go get a haircut. Just stupid stuff that, you know, maybe people don't think are important, but what was getting to me is I wasn't lazy, but I was forgetful. So I would get to the end of the day, I'd be laying in bed and go, oh shit, I forgot to do 7 things today. And that got so frustrating for me. And just by putting that list together, it's organized my life into this win-win-win every day, because I can go back to that list and just check them off one at a time. I'm winning.
And it feels so good.
So good. So good. And you get so much done.
Yeah.
And you're not exhausted, because these are little tiny things that you just need to do. You just are forgetting to do them, or you're, I'd rather just sit here and watch another episode of Everybody Loves Raymond instead of doing it.
Yeah, and I put drink water, take vitamins, give thanks. I put these important things like, and what I do every night, when I go to bed, I fill out the next day, and I have a column for today's tasks that are different than the checklist, and I put a weekly or goals or next month's goals, and it's always changing, but it's.
That's because I've heard so much that you, the 4th person I've interviewed down here, and 3 of you have mentioned physical fitness and the Key West lifestyle and how those things don't always jive together. Yeah. And I've been trying to get Jonathan Chartwood into jiu-jitsu all weekend long, because he's a brown belt. He's so close to that pinnacle. Just go back and finish, just get back to the gym. And Quincy was another one, who mentioned that it's so hard to get into some kind of routine because the vibe down here. And every day I was down here, I got up 6:30, put my running shoes on, went for a run, came back, did some calisthenics, and the city's dead. There's nobody up. There were some garbage men doing stuff Friday morning, but this place doesn't come alive until 10 o'clock.
I think it's one of the best moves I've made is getting up early, and sometimes I will get up at 4, but I like 5 or 6 o'clock, and then I don't give myself to other people usually until 10. Like I try to set my first appointments around 10, and this way I've got several hours where I'm not getting emails, my phone's not going off, I'm not getting texts, there's nothing going on. I don't want to post to social media because nobody's awake.
Yeah.
So it's really time for me. And I think by making sure that I've got that in the very beginning of the day, it sets the mood for the whole day, because then you don't feel like you're pulled in too many directions.
Yeah.
And I think anywhere we go in life, we're pulled in too many directions throughout the entire day.
And this phone is just another thing pulling you in a different direction.
Sure.
So one of the things I've started now is trying not to look at my phone until I have to put the workout on the board every morning at 6 a.m. So, but from 4:30 to 6, since I wake up, because you used to wake up, the first thing you did was you look at your phone to see who. I don't even look at it. I just put it down and I look at it for the first time when I write the stuff on the board. But I'm still not checking emails. I'm not returning text messages. And the other thing is my wife had a conversation with me, because I'm always working, and it's work, but I don't consider it work because I love doing what I do. I mean, this isn't breaking rocks in the hot sun. This is fun. But when we were on vacation, in St. Pete Beach, and I had my phone, and someone messaged me, and I'd message back, and she kind of brought to my attention that we're here on vacation, and I know you're not actually working hard, but you're still working hard. So now every night, as soon as my wife and kid are home for the night, 6 o'clock, the phone goes away. It doesn't fucking matter. Nothing matters outside those two being in my house. They're safe. No one's going to call me for a ride. The phone goes away. And that's made a huge difference. It's just another drain on your energies.
Yeah, I've started turning my ringer off throughout the day. I've still got it vibrate, so if something important comes through, I kind of know it's there, but it's not where you're checking every time a little boop beep bop comes through.
Well, we've been sitting here for an hour, and neither one of us have looked at our phone once. This is what's nice about this. Because people don't have these conversations anymore. It just happens we have to have microphones in front of us to do it.
Right. And I don't think our phones are going to go away. So it really is. It's where you can't change the way society is. So you have to just set your own parameters where it does separate you. And that's what, for me, it really has worked, having that morning time where nobody else is on there. And it's amazing what it does for you. Even an hour by yourself in the morning.
That discipline will improve your life greatly.
And things can look like such a big challenge. I was at one point up to like 225 pounds. I'm right around 190 now. but I started making the little changes, and yoga was the big one. But with that did come a healthier diet, less drinking, a lot of just natural changes, waking up earlier, feeling better. So it wasn't like I had to do all the work myself. It was making the little change, and all the other stuff started falling in place.
And it's not so daunting when you change little things at a time.
It's not. And for me, it's like, hey, get up and do yoga every day. And if I do that, it's kind of it's like, hey, smooth sailing.
And you're thinking, no, this yoga makes you feel real great. Maybe I shouldn't eat this fucking pizza at night, you know, because that'll kind of negate what I just did, you know. And
I actually got to the point where, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm sitting on my, I think I might start riding my bike too. I want to get a little more, a little more cardio or something. Yeah. So those thoughts are coming naturally, and my brain's like, what the hell are you thinking? Where's this coming from?
When you said you were driving here, I was surprised. Is it because I didn't even know you guys own cars, most of you.
Yeah, I live on Stock Island. It's the next island up. Everybody says it's the up and coming area.
Yeah.
And Stock Island is really cool. It used to be all trailer parks, and it was where the workforce housing was for Key West. But as more and more people come to Key West, there's really no workforce housing anymore. But what I found, I'd always rented places and had no problems. I lived across from the Hemingway house. It was a cool house. I've had some really cool places, but landlords die or they decide to sell the house, and then suddenly you're looking for a place. And me and my girlfriend have a pit bull. Nobody wants to rent you with a dog down here. The last time I had to move, I couldn't find a place in Key West, so I ended up moving to a friend's vacation trailer in Isla Mirada. And I lived there for 2 years. And it was okay, but it was no Key West. So me and my girlfriend said, it's time to buy a place.
Yeah.
And we bought something on Stock Island, and we love it. And people talk about, they'll say it's like Key West used to be. It's not like Key West used to be, but I like it better than Key West in a lot of ways because we can walk our dog without, worrying about all the traffic.
Oh. Thank you very much.
And we can, thanks so much. We can.
What am I drinking here, sir?
A little single shot of espresso, so it's a virtue shot. So it's
single shot of espresso here.
It gets people going in the morning.
I like it.
Cheers. So we can walk the dog. We can ride our bikes side by side, and there's not all the traffic coming up and around behind us. We know our neighbors. It's not a vacation rental next door. We wave to everybody on our street.
Yeah. And
it's really cool because it's a very mixed neighborhood. Black, white, Cuban, Eastern European. There's this great mix out there. And Stock Island is getting some cool things. It got 2 really nice hotels, which brings some of the tourist trade out there. But it also got, like Croissants de France is out there. The Hogfish Bar, which is some of the best seafood around. It's one of the best Key West experiences. And then we have Rustica Pizza. There's food trucks out there. There's 5 or 6 food trucks. There's a brewery opening. So it's got this really good buzz going now, like a lot of those areas where the artists move in and they're cool. Because Key West went through that phase where all the artists moved in. But now a lot of them are moving out to Stock Island because the real estate is so valuable in Key West. So they're 2 different experiences, but I kind of tell everybody if you come to Key West for more than 2 or 3 days, it's worth taking one day and renting a bike and riding around Stock Island because it'll give you a taste of what the laid-back feeling of Key West was. Which is an important part of what the draw was.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I tell people, I did a post about it yesterday. Anytime I'm in the doctor's office and I want to make sure my blood pressure is in a reason, because I'm always nervous when you go to the doctor, and I want to bring my blood pressure back down, or I'm in a situation where I need to be calm, I take a minute, I do some deep breathing, and I picture myself at the Key West bike, just walking past Turtle Falls and past Tuner's Wharf, and it'll immediately just bring all that down. It's just one of the most relaxing places for me on the planet. And before we leave today, I'll go down there and hang out for an hour and drink a coffee and probably have lunch at Scooter's Wharf, and it's just so relaxing.
Yeah. Do you drive when you're down here?
No.
Yeah. Sometime when you're down up on Stock Island behind the Hogfish, it's an area called Safe Harbor, and a lot of people go to Hogfish and then just go, but. You can walk this whole area, and there's people who live on houseboats. There's little woodworking shops. There's some artist places. So there's nothing really being sold. It's not the ice cream shops and T-shirt shops, but it's like I imagine the historic seaport being back before there were people. And you can walk just along the water, and you see these cool. You see character. There's some cats around that'll come up to. It's like the historic seaport, but with nobody around. So if you ever get a chance next, like when you do go to Hogfish, walk that area behind it. It's unbelievable.
That's great, and that's what's great about now having a friend like you down here, where I can ask these questions and find out stuff that even though I've been down here a million times, I've never known about, and it's great. What's the latest books out there that people should be, if they want to get the quintessential David Sloan book, the first book, which one should they buy?
Well, if people are coming to visit Key West, the new Key West bucket list is definitely the way to go. I think it's going to be the best guide that you can get for your money that tells you options of what to do, but doesn't waste your time.
Yeah.
You can read the entire thing in 30 minutes.
It was,
but you'll have 100 things. You'll say, whoa, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go online and you can explore those ones more and figure it out. But I think that'll give you the best experience in town. If people like ghost stuff, Haunted Key West is my best haunted book.
Very good, yeah.
People are really into Robert the Doll. If you want to know the truth about Robert the Doll, it goes into the Otto family. It goes into the origins. It talks about Robert being a Steiff doll, not created by a servant, but it ties in the servant. So those are the best ones. Quit Your Job, Move to Key West. People love it.
Yeah.
We haven't updated it in 8 years, so a lot of the information is outdated. A lot of the jokes are dated. People still absolutely love it. And the cool thing about Quit Your Job, Move to Key West, I meet 5 or 10 people every month who say, I read your book and I did it.
It's amazing that there's that many.
Yeah. So I meet people all the time who have done it, and a lot of them, it's not like they did it that month.
Right.
They might have been here for 15 years, and I'm just meeting them for the first time.
Right.
But it has brought a lot of people down here, and you hear a lot of people who say, "Yeah, this kind of gave me the courage to do it." So I think that one's cool for people who want to make any leap in life.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of have the philosophy of, you know what, do it. I mean, don't be miserable somewhere.
Yes.
Worst thing that can happen is you fail, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I know with a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, if we're in our 40s or 50s, we haven't made it this far by accident or by being stupid or by not knowing what we're doing. And we'll have that ability to get on our feet again through most anything.
We're my wife. We don't know where we're going, but my son graduates from high school in 4 years, and out of respect for him and his studies, we'll let him graduate from high school. But then we're gone. We're not going to live the rest of our lives in Cleveland, Ohio, where you walk outside and your face hurts because it's so cold. It's just
Quit your job and move to Stock Island.
It might actually happen. We're it all depends on what it looks like, whether or not we open another gym or if the podcast is doing well to that point, but it's going to happen. And I don't have a regulator anymore. She's as crazy as I am, so when we decided we were going to move, she's been looking at houses all over the Atlantic seaboard and up the Gulf Coast for a couple years now. So
Nice.
I think it'll just happen one day. But it's a romantic vision that I think talking to John at the chart room that he hears daily. And not very many people actually do it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, very very few do. And some people do it and fail.
Yeah.
Some people come here and they leave.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it was a bad experience. But if you're sitting there with an option and you don't do it, you're stuck where you were. If you try it, at least you've moved yourself forward.
Yeah.
You're progressing.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to let you get going here on this Sunday morning. You were my last interview here in Key West. Anything you want to plug before we go?
No, this has been fantastic.
Awesome. We'll do it again for sure.
And I'll look forward to seeing your book.
You'll be the first one who gets a copy, and maybe you'll see me at the bridge run this year. Or at one of the bridge runs.
Excellent.
All right. This has been the Refined Savage, guys. See ya.